Hello and welcome back to Unreal Engine 5 Blueprint Mastery, Door Systems and Interactive Portals. Previously, we ended up with finishing the designing part of our widget, which I have closed. No, I haven't. Here it is. We created a widget blueprint, we named it WG Door, we added a canvas panel to our hierarchy. Well, this is one point that I didn't explain well. Over here we have the hierarchy, which shows us which elements are inside the widget. It's kind of like the components tab in blueprints, but for widgets. And the hierarchy here tells us which widget is first, second, which belongs to who basically. Also, I didn't explain much the horizontal box. I think it's kind of self-explanatory. It allows widgets to be laid out horizontally. If we hover over, it allows widgets to be laid out in a flow horizontally. If we hover anything, if we select anything and hover it, it will give us a tooltip about it. Come on, do the thing. If it just doesn't want to. So yeah, basically in the palette, it's easier to see the tooltips. Here, it has to be on the icon itself. We have created the widget, we have added to our viewport through, we created it and added it to the viewport through the game mode. By the event begin play, we created the widget and then we added it to the viewport. Now we hosted it to the game mode because it's going to be shared across our levels and we want this widget to exist in every level. But we don't want to be adding the widget on the viewport when the game begins. We want to add it to viewport when we call it. What we will do is promote this to a variable, which is our widget reference. When we are creating, we are getting a return value, which is a reference to what we created. And I'm going to name this wg.ref. As you can see, the theme with the references is a little bit important in programming. Calling references, having ways to reference something like we had in the level blueprint that we were referencing the trigger boxes, when we have the reference to the other component, which we ask if it has a tag. References are a thing. References are the alpha and omega, if you will, of object-oriented programming. Now we have stored a reference of the widget. So we're going to create a custom event. I'm going to call this add.widget. And we're going to connect it to the add to viewport. And we're going to bring the reference over here and connect it to the target. Because if we just add to viewport, it would probably trigger an error or do nothing because there would be no target, because target self means the game mode. It's not a widget, so it cannot add it to viewport. But the widget reference, it can be added to the viewport and this will work correctly. Now, the next thing we will do is create another custom event and call this remove.widget. I'm going to drag a cable from the widget reference and say remove from parent. This is the way we are removing widgets from the viewport. One of the ways. So let's go utilize these two functions. Let's go to our one-way door. Let's go to event graph. Let's go to our collision. So when we're colliding and beginning overlap, we should show our widget. To call this, I need to have access to the game mode. So I need a reference to the game mode. Thankfully, Unreal Engine has a nice way to get the game mode. It's called get game mode. But this returns a generic value. We have a specific game mode. We have the third person game mode, or we have the doors game mode, or we can have any kind of game mode. This returns only a generic game mode, based object reference. To check if it's our game mode, we're gonna need to cast. So we're gonna cast to third person game mode. As we said, cast is asking something, are you this thing, basically? Is this object this kind of object? So I'm going to convert to a pure cast, which just removes the execution pin and makes it a little bit easier. If we succeed, and our game mode is the game mode, because the success is like when it was impure cast, it was like cast fail, cast succeed. Now we have a boolean to tells us if it succeeded or not. So if we succeeded, then we can get some information, we can get some functions and events from the third person game mode. The event we want right now is to add door widget over here, and I can just drag another cable and say remove door widget and connect it over here. I'm gonna compile and save, and let's go test it. I'm gonna go to the first door, it opens. Second door, we have a widget, and it's getting removed. Nice, but the thing is that our widget doesn't correspond to what it should be saying. Like right now, it should be saying open, and right now it should be saying close, which is correct. But it's only 50% correct. It's not always correct. So let's fix this. And to do that, we're gonna go to our third person game mode, and we're gonna create a function. So what is a function? Basically, it's a set of actions or logic, if you will, that is reusable, that can be used multiple times and can be called simultaneously many times, and it will run specific tasks every time. Like an event, if it's called again, they are typically queued the new call, whereas functions will just run again. An example about that practically would be multiple overlap collisions, like for example, many bullets hit you on the same fragment of a second. That will be queued in order which one hit first and which one hit it second, and etc. Where if it was functions, they would all run executed immediately. They will be stacked and immediately executed. So basically, we could have created an event, but for this scenario, we created a function. Now, another thing about functions is that, of course, they have inputs, as we can see in their details, but they also can have outputs. For example, if I wanted something to know if it succeeded or not, I could have an output of a boolean, and as you can see, it created a return node, and that boolean could be true or false. For example, if something I did in here succeeded or not. I'm gonna delete this, and I'm gonna delete the return node because we don't need it. I'm gonna compile and save. Maybe one more detail about functions, and that will be it. Functions, they cannot have time things inside them. They can call externally time things, but they cannot have a delay in here, we cannot have a timeline in here, we cannot have timers. So time is something that cannot be in a function. Now, our function, what should it do? Let's call this update widget text. And we're gonna need a new input of type string. I'm gonna call it widget text. Now, what this will do, we're gonna get our widget.reference. I'm gonna get it here, and I'm gonna get text. Actually, let's go to our widget. Let's go to our designer. Now, we want to change this text over here, the text that says close. If we see it on top of the details, there is name we can put, or we can actually put it here, but I'm gonna choose to be here. Let's call this widget text, my widget text. Now, next to it, there is a button called isVariable. If it's not clicked, then this means that it is static, it cannot be modified. Whereas if I click is variable, it can be modified through code. There is a lot of reasons for this to happen behind the scenes, but let's not go into too much detail. Let's go to our game mode again, not the event graph. In our game mode, in the function widget update, and we're gonna get my widget text. And from here, we're gonna set text as we did with the text renders in the BP flow text. I'm gonna connect this to, this is a text, yeah. We can change this string to a text and can connect directly. If I left it string, it wouldn't matter, it would auto-translate it to text string. But why not make this part a little bit more clear? And I'm gonna just change it to text and connect it here. So we have a function that changes our text. I need to compile the widget because we turned this to is variable. It needed to be compiled. Let's save also. And now it's fine. I think this is a nice stopping point. We're going to continue in the next one implementing this new function. Goodbye for now.